What's going on, guys? We're back with another Modified Rides podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Burrell. Here we are, episode 102. That's right, we're already 102 episodes in. This week, I was able to sit down with Mike Barcia. I'm sure you guys know him by his dually, No Compromise. Probably one of the sickest OBS dualies out. It's kind of above and beyond. He does the full displays, sets it up on mirrors and stuff. Definitely a showstopper. It was cool to have him on, finally link up with him. Discuss his involvement in the industry, his build, some of the shows he's involved with. So let's check it out. Mike Barcia. All right, guys. This episode of Modified Rides podcast is brought to you by NV Machine Works. If you're building a C10 or a classic GM truck and want that clean OEM plus billet look, they've got you covered. From hood hinges to interior details, everything is CNC machined in-house from 6061 billet aluminum. They're known for their billet hood braces for the 73 to 80 square body trucks. You know as well as I do, you see it on TV, all the auctions and stuff. The hoods want to fold. Well, their hood braces stop that. Check them out. NV Machine Works. On Instagram, they're NV_machine_works or online at nvmachineworks.com. Check them out. All right, guys. Like I said, this week I have Mike Barcia on. What's going on, Mike?
Hey, what's happening?
It's hard to see or to get you locked down to be able to do stuff like this. I think you're a busier man than I am.
Yeah, I wish it wasn't the truth. But between, I've got like my regular full-time job, where I sell car audio electronics to retail stores. And then I do my detailing, and I've had a lot of stuff going with family stuff. And my daughter gets married in like 3 weeks. And on top of that, I went to Detroit Autorama recently, flew out there, and I went to LST and flew out there, and still got had to get some truck show and car show action in there.
So I guess the question is, how are any of us old enough to have kids getting married now? Like mine's 25 now.
My daughter's 24, and man, it makes me feel old. Let me tell you.
More gray than you do, man. This is.
Oh no, it's there. Trust me, I promise.
So
crazy.
Who is Mike Barcia? Like what do you do? Who are you? If for those that have been under a rock for the last 20 years, 30 years.
So, I'm a truck guy, just like you, right? I started out in high school, and I wanted a stereo, and I got like a little Civic, Honda, and put 4 kicker tins in it and put a stereo in it. And then I saw a mini trucking magazine, and it was all over. I was done. And my senior year of high school, I got a 1992 Isuzu pickup truck, and I lowered it and put wheels on it and put fender trim and vent shades, and I was super cool, And they just kind of like
vent shades. That means you're probably what, like me, mid 90s or so?
Yes, early 90s. So the truck's at 92, and I bought it new.
When did you graduate?
In 93.
Okay, so you're just a year ahead of me then.
Yeah. I never knew, and I only got the truck because I could put a topper on it and put more stereo in the bed. And then I started realizing, all this, wheels and tires, and don't get me wrong, I love the stereo stuff. That's what I do for a living. It's a lot of fun, but my passion is more on the custom side for sure.
So you said you had a Civic you put stuff in. Is that the first car you ever had was a Civic?
It was. So I walked to work. I was working as a busboy at Steak and Ale. That's a throwback.
Yeah.
And I walked there, and I was I started working when I was like 15 years old, and I was walking to work, and to save up enough money. And my first car, I paid $1,500 for it, and it was a 1985 Honda Civic hatchback. It's the one with the real flat back window. And then I lowered it and put inky saw blades on it. And
85, that was the square body style, right?
It was, yep.
Yeah, because I had the 88 CRX, so that's when they first changed around stuff to an 88.
Yeah, same thing. And that was like the cool thing in high school, and I put Redline mids and highs in it, an Alpine radio and kicker subs, and I had LA sound amplifiers. And man, I thought I was a shit.
Everybody had to have the green face Alpine back in the day.
That's what it was. Yep, that's it. We call it the chiclets. Yep. And
Now, I think that was about the time they started coming out with where you could either choose amber or green.
yeah, I just remember mine being green. Actually, it was a CVA 7905. I'm almost positive it was the model number.
How do you remember what model number head unit you had back in the early 90s?
I'm weird like that, I guess. I can't remember what I had for breakfast.
That's
But
the old age kicking, is what that is.
100%. My wife's like, remember that? We just talked about this last night. I'm like, oh yeah. I'm thinking, oh, but yeah, of course.
Now, were you around any custom vehicles before you started driving, or did you just immediately step into it?
That's a great question, right? So I always give my grandfather my passion for custom vehicles. He passed when I was 13, so really young. But he took me to like the World of Wheels that they had here in Tampa back in the day when they had them. He
Yeah,
took
I
me to the
remember those.
Monster Truck Jam, and he had a Cadillac, a Gucci Cadillac. It was like if you look them up, you can see them. They're pretty neat. It was a Cadillac Seville, ultimately, that was custom made with a Gucci rag top and had a Gucci symbol on the front hood emblem. And man,
Never
I
seen
would
that.
go with. Yeah, so we would go somewhere and they'd be like, "Oh man, is that real Gucci?" And I mean, as a kid, I didn't, and I quickly realized it was like a cool car, and I quickly realized, oh, hey, this is kind of fun, I like this, and I truly believe my passion comes from him. That's for sure.
Now you've been into you said you started with the stereo, which is all we did. I had two 10-inch Sur Vegas back in the day. Probably wasn't the right size box for it. Me and some buddies had just built a rectangle box and put two tens in it. I think back then it was everybody either had to have Kicker or Sur Vega.
Yep, the Vegas. Yep. Yeah, so it's kind of crazy because I was telling somebody just the other night that I had two kicker tens and a prefab box with a LA Sound. I want to say it was the Redondo amplifier. And a buddy of mine has got, hey man, I got two kicker tens for sale in a box that are just like yours if you want to put four in there. I'm like, yeah. So I bought his other two tens and then I went out and bought another amplifier. I could never understand at the time why my first two tens were louder than my second two. I'd like unhook one amp and then hook up the other amp. I'm like, man, why is it louder? Well, later on, I realized I bought the first pair of subs were they were a single voice coil, single 4 ohm. So the amplifier was at 2 ohms. Well, the other enclosure was 2 8-ohm. So this amp was only running at 4 ohms. So that's why, and I didn't know any difference. But yeah, so we all start somewhere and kind of fun stuff.
Now you said you working at 15, which is what's crazy because now you couldn't get a 15-year-old to go mow the neighbor's yard, much less have a full job. It's like, I think our generation's probably one of the last that actually would work as soon as you could. I remember I had a job lined up before I even turned 16. Like the day I turned 16, I went to work.
Well, I wanted a car. And
Yep.
my parents had got divorced and my mom didn't have any money. And so the only way for me to have a car was for me to make money. It's just that simple.
Now kids don't want to drive. They don't want to go anywhere. They don't, it's weird.
I have a friend of mine, his kids rather Uber. Like, I'll just Uber if I want to go somewhere. It's like, are you kidding me right now? It's just different generation.
The car payment if you live near a city.
It's cheaper than car insurance, that's for sure.
Yeah. Now, when did you get into the automotive industry? Was it later on down the road or was it pretty quick after high school?
So right after I graduated high school, I had my Isuzu at that point in time. It was lowered, and I decided I wanted to work in the automotive industry. And there's a local dealership here with Century, Buick, and Isuzu, and there's a Isuzu dealership. And I went there and I said, hey, I got this Isuzu. It's my passion. I love this thing. And they're like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, I want a job. I'll do anything. And they're like, well, you can be a lot porter. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I quit my job at Steak and Ale and I was a lot porter. I didn't make nothing, right? But I just thought I was cool because I was working in the dealership. Well, I wasn't working there for like, I don't know, 30 days. And they come up to me and they said, hey, you did a lot of this stuff to your truck yourself, right? I'm like, yeah. They're like, do you have tools? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, hey, we've got these two guys back here. One of them does accessories and the other one does upholstery. And they could use like a helping hand, someone to like, mount a bumper guard or somebody to pull a headliner out while then the guy wraps the headliner and somebody to put the headliner back in. And so they're like, would you want to do that? I'm like, yeah. They're like, well, it pays like $1 more an hour. I'm like, heck yeah. So I did that. Yeah, it was huge. So I was like the little assistant, right, for these two guys, but they taught me a lot. Learn how to do keyless entries and I was doing power door locks in the Isuzu pickup trucks and power windows because back then none of that stuff came with all that stuff. And then I started hanging out at a local car stereo shop called Audio Itch, which is still in business today. And I became friends with those guys, and they knew the work that I was doing. And one day they either fired or an installer quit. They called me up like, hey, you want to come work? And I'll pay you $400 a week. Work 6 days, Monday through Saturday. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like my dream job.
So I was rich back then.
Rich, right? So I quit the dealership job and I started as an installer and did that for a few years and really enjoyed it. And, it was the typical prankster installer, zip ties on, drive shafts. And I was working on the owner's Porsche, putting front speakers in it for them. And I hot glued ends of drywall screws to the door. It looks like I put those drywall screws right to the door. And, just I had fun with it. And then one day I cut my finger and had to get stitches and all that. And they're like, well, I came back to work and they're like, I can't put you out on the bay. You can't do nothing, but you've always done a good job helping customers with like doing demos and stuff like that. But we'll just put you on the sales floor. At the time, there was 2 salesmen and a manager. And they're like, we'll just put you on the sales floor. You could do that for a couple of weeks till your hand gets better. Then we'll get you back on the bay. I'm like, oh, that's cool, whatever. Well, those 2 weeks, I outsold all 3 of the other guys. I sold more stuff than all 3 of them. A couple weeks later, one of the salesmen was given an opportunity to either go back, go to the bay, or you don't have a job. And I started in sales and just never looked back. And obviously today I work for Dow Technologies. We are a manufacturer distributor for 12 volts. We also do dish network, and we also do home theater products, home TVs like LG, Sony, Samsung. I'm on the 12 volt side of the world. I'm what they call a territory manager. I'm directly responsible for all the 12 volt sales in Florida. And I got 2 guys that work on my team with me. And they also open up a separate direct rep firm called Adam Sales. And I'm the rep responsible for some brands on the direct side. So I kind of handle management. I handle sales on distribution and through direct. And then I help on purchasing and marketing and all that kind of fun stuff. And I've been there for 12 years now, but I've been in the industry for over 30 years. I love it.
How did you step into that company?
Well, so after, like Audio Edge, I worked at a couple of little shops like that. And then I worked for a shop called Maximum Audio Video. I worked there for 10 years. I was the general manager there. And we did some really cool stuff. I did cars for Rick Ross and Plies and Jimmy Buffett and just some really cool stuff. We were recording for a TV show at one point in time, and I really, really enjoyed it. We were a very busy shop, but then Dow came to me saying, hey, we want to, grow our 12 volt side of the business. You're local to us. You have tons of experience. And there was multiple different manufacturer reps that recommended me. So I went and interviewed, and they offered me 3 weeks of vacation off the bat, 401k, all kinds of benefits that I couldn't get from the local retailer. And it was an opportunity for growth within my career path, and I couldn't say no. And I've been there ever since. And they're an amazing company, great people.
We all get to that one age. They're like, wait a minute, there's benefits involved with this job? Yeah.
I got to catch up on 401k. Oh man, I'm starting late.
What do you mean? I need money for retirement. I thought I just need money for this week. Like, what do we?
Right. I thought I need money for billet wheels.
Yep. So you said you're over the, Florida. Is that as far as you go, is just Florida?
Me personally, yeah. We have 3 territory managers. I cover just one state, but in the state we have 750 customers. So it's a big book of business. And then we cover as a company from California, all the way to North Carolina, and then up into like the Philadelphia area. We cover the lower half of the United States, then up in the Northeast. And we do a tremendous amount of business. We've got a great team, and we have 9 people for our 12 volt team specifically. I have 3 people on my team itself, and we have a blast. That's for sure.
So with the Dow umbrella, what's some of the key brands that you carry?
So we carry some of the best brands I feel like in the industry, stuff like obviously Sony, Hicker, ABC, Memphis. We do all your Metra installation supplies. We carry 57 brands, so it's a whole lot of stuff, and we do like some of the new stuff by RDV, which is like tablet style radios. We do Vinland radios. I love our GVC stuff. We do all the new direct replacements, which is like all these cars that you can't put radios in now because there's no depth. So these actually allow us to put a vehicle in there with that will make it fit without depth. It's like think of like an old school flip out radio
Yeah.
where you'd have a flip out and then you have a separate brain. So now we're doing that. So like, for example, one of my best friends, Chris Pate from MTI out in Texas,
I've never
he buys,
heard of him.
never. Who's that guy?
I think he was on the podcast at one time. I'd have to check. I don't remember.
Nice. So I sell him a lot of the JVC radios because the fact that when he's building these dashes and he doesn't have a lot of depth fit. So it's kind of like a tablet. Think of a tablet, but with a screen. It's pretty neat. But, stuff like that.
Now, so you say you've been there 12 years with that company, right? So
Correct.
I guess
Yep.
during that time, or even stepping back a little further, with you being directly involved with the automotive, audio world, how have you seen the world change with all these OEM people coming out with stuff like you said you can't access? It's all integrated. Like, no, I feel personally that there's not a lot of people doing audio upgrades on new vehicles like we did back in the 90s and 2000s.
So there's a lot of answers to that, right? So if you want to really go back in time, I'll never forget when I was working at that shop, Audio Itch, and the owner comes in. We're going to have a morning meeting at 8:30 on a Saturday morning. He's like, we got these new parts. Let me tell you. It's a brand called Metra, and we have these 6 little harnesses, and this makes it to where you don't have to cut the factory cables, and we're able to actually plug this in. I remember just being like blown away. Oh my gosh, game changer. And he's like, and we're going to sell these things. I'm like, what? It's going to make it easier and we're going to sell them? So it kind of started in that. And then the world that we live in today, now it's all integration, right? So today, like if you bought a 2025 Duramax, let's just say there'd be a GMC or a Silverado, you're not replacing the factory radio. They're like a tablet style screen in those, LTZ, high countries, AT4 type trucks. So everything now is a T-harness. Like PAC makes a part, AP4 piece, that T-harness is behind the factory radio. It's going to be able to adjust the chime. It allows you to give you full range RCA outputs to run your amplifiers. So guys are still doing audio. They're just replacing the mids and highs, adding woofers, adding amplifiers, and keeping the factory head unit.
Now, have the manufacturers shifted to that, knowing that people aren't going to change out half their dash? So now, instead of us doing a head unit, now we have to do parts to still connect everything.
So there's a couple answers, right? There's certain companies, like I had mentioned, RDV, that's replacing like tablet style screens, because of depth issues, and they're, very specific to that vehicle. And there are companies like JVC that I mentioned, the direct replacements, where they're making stuff to fit through the partnership with Maestro, to where they can actually make an aftermarket radio fit that you can't put in cars today. And there are some companies that realize they can't make a living just selling radios, and they're stepping up their game in amps and speakers because, they don't want to get left behind.
Yeah. Well, I know the half the stereos that are come factory in these new vehicles, hell, like the Tahoe. I think the Tahoe's got a better stereo in it factory than my first 3 stereos put together.
Sure. And if you really want to fast forward, the new Escalades, are wild.
The headrest speakers.
It's like 38 speakers in that truck. And right now it's a real tough time to integrate it. And guys are working real hard to try to get an integration piece, on the brand new one. That's the one that the touchscreen goes all the way across the dash.
Now,
so cars are getting harder. There's no question about that.
So I guess the market for that has shifted more towards people that build older vehicles like we do, that, you need something that's not like back then, nothing was integrated. So you have to have a head unit and all that. Have you seen the demand for that kind of aftermarket parts change?
Yeah. So I will tell you, our customer base has changed, right? So I work with a lot of upholstery shops like Interworks, for example, that did my interior the first time. They do a tremendous amount of work with me because they're building all these dashes, kind of like I was talking about with Chris Pate, and they'll do like an Alpine head unit in the dash. And so our business shifted gears with that. I do a ton of work with all your side-by-side guys, especially on the Memphis, on the direct side. They have a lot of plug-and-play Memphis kits with subwoofers and pods for the speakers. So there's a lot of business happening in that direction. And then what I'm finding is that some of the shops that won't educate themselves and they don't go out there and learn and won't, stuck in their old times, they're just getting weeded out. The guys that are educating themselves and they're learning and, they're understanding the importance of DSP. Those are the guys that are just getting the business that some of those other guys would have gotten before. The business has definitely changed. I'll tell you, I went through a period everybody had to have subs, right? And then it was like flip down TVs and how many TVs can you put in a car? All the different generations. And today a lot of it's loudspeakers, right? So like with us at Dow, we don't do anything with loudspeakers. Fortunately, loudspeakers don't make our retailer any money. There's no profit in it. And for us, we don't want to carry something that doesn't have a warranty because then it turns into, hey, if you don't warranty this, we're not going to do business with you no longer, and we don't want to lose accounts over a warranty on something like that.
I
So
think
the industry's changed.
I
That's for
think for a
sure.
little while, it was a lot of people weren't even doing any kind of audio in custom builds. And I feel a lot of the audio side is actually coming back into play recently.
Oh, for sure. Like I was mentioning before, I do a lot of work with hot rod shops, interior shops, more shops like that because these guys are building these vehicles. And those guys, a lot of people are building more cruisers now and drivers than what's been in the past. Like we were talking earlier, I want something I can drive, like the OBS behind me. A good buddy of mine, Mark, just bought that truck. He dropped it off for a ceramic coating and polish it out, and because he wants a driver, he wants just something fun to take to the local Sonic and stuff. And I'm at that point too. I've had a blast with my truck. I've shown all over the country, but man, it's a nightmare. It's a headache. It's so much work beforehand, so much stress and work there. And then you got to do it all over when you get home. And man, I'd like to just go to like the local Sonic and hang out, and not be stressed out about, oh my gosh, that might get a rock chip, I got to fix that now.
Well, it's like when I did the audio in the Blazer, like I've had some crazy like pound the ground audio systems, but it's like I didn't want that in a classic. I wanted something that would still sound good, that I could listen to when I was cruising. The bad part is I never even turned the stereo on for the most part because I'm listening to the exhaust on it. Like it's a whole different, but I didn't want something that wouldn't fit that classic clean look. Like you don't need to pull up with a 1977 truck and it have like 415s in the back of it. Like it doesn't.
I agree. Yeah, I agree 100%. It's so funny, so when we redid my dually the last time before we took out the SEMA, when I took it to Chris Pate, he spent so many hours and hours with DSP and microphones and tuning the truck and laptops. I'm like, guys, I gotta go. I gotta drive to Vegas. You gotta wrap this up. And he has got a guy, Jeffrey, over there that does all the tuning. And Jeffrey's like, oh, I'm not done yet. I'm like, bro, I gotta go.
I'm not gonna be playing this thing cruising the show.
Does it turn on? I'm like, I gotta go. So I understand more than anybody does. My truck sounds great, but man, I've only turned it on a handful of times. It's a shame in reality. That's for sure.
Well, it's like, I got with you, and I think I got the same, isn't it the same head unit you have in your truck is what I have in the Blazer? And that's something somebody will look here and they're like, oh, wow, look at that screen. I'm like, I wanted that little bit of touch of modern. Of course, my installer was like, man, you should have done an 8-inch. It don't fit right. I'm like, yeah, but to have that big modern screen with all this classic interior completely changes the look and feel of it.
Yeah, it's so awesome. That's the Sony XAV 9500 ES. That's their ES line, which is the high end of Sony, elevated standard. And I will tell you, that is by far, that and the 9000 is the best sounding radio in the market today. You cannot buy a better sounding radio. And with that 10-inch screen, it is so modern. That's why I went with it, when we redid my dash and everything. This was like, we need to do digital gauges. We need to do a modern screen for the head unit. I was like, oh, I want classic gauges and no radio. Yeah. And he's like, no, come on, bro. And it's the best thing we ever did. It's what it needed,
Now you've mentioned, the Dually a couple times. And for those that, most people listening to this are going to know who you are and know who the Dually is. But for those that aren't, I guess let's back up a little bit. Did you, after the Isuzu, did you start on the Dually then?
Yeah, so funny story. I've had it since 2001.
Oh, wow.
So I bought that truck because my wife was pregnant with my daughter that's getting married in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever it is now. And so I had an extra cab Dually that was bagged, and so this is 2000-ish or something like that. And back then, not that many trucks were bagged, especially Duallys,
Yeah.
But it was an extra cab, and I wanted a crew cab so bad. I felt like no matter what I did to this extra cab, it's never going to be a 4-door, and to me, it just wasn't cool, So I had my Isuzu, and I had my Isuzu apart, Teddy's Hot Rods, getting an insane sheet metal front end and firewall, and it was way ahead of its time. Unfortunately, I never finished it, but Um,
Where did it wind up going?
well, I only sold it just a couple years ago. I started the dually, and then I wanted to finish the dually before I get back on the Isuzu. And then my wife told me, she's like, "That thing's gotta go." But someone local here in the Tampa Bay area
Nice.
bought it, and he bought it to finish it. And he wanted to put LS in it and everything. I'm not sure, honestly, he's done anything with it, which is kind of a shame. But I bought the dually to tow my Isuzu, and I bought the dually because my daughter was on the way, right? My wife was pregnant, but I knew from the get go I wanted to bag it and I wanted to shave a couple things, so that's what we did. We shaved the tailgate handle and did some minor body work to it and filled some holes and things like that, and
Yeah.
put a different bumper on it and bagged it, and I put KMC wheels on it, and I took the truck up to Maggie Valley. Was his first show for Mini Nats when it was still in Pigeon Forge at Governor's Palace back in the day. Cruised it that weekend, had a blast. I got 7 tickets that weekend. Outrageous. My wife was so mad. And it was like $1,000 in tickets. It's like dragging my truck and this and that. And I was like,
Permitting vehicle to come in contact with pavement. So many of my friends have had that ticket.
It's like, bro, and one time it was like they had, at the time, the husband and wife had gotten divorced.
Yeah.
So there's 2 shows in the one city, and I actually registered for both shows. So I actually went to one and then was leaving one and went to the other one. And all I did was go around the corner and just the frame just hit, bottomed out just a little tiny bit. Whoop, whoop, whoop. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me right now.
We used to have half of our group would go to like his awards and half of them would go to her awards, and we would just pick up whoever's award because we would show at both of them there and then. Yeah, I've been to since '94. I've been going to Mini Nats, awesome. But at the time it was an hour and a half from me. Like we would go to Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge on a random Saturday night just to cruise. We'd go eat, cruise, awesome. And come home. Like there wasn't even staying. So to have Mini Nats that close, and you know, the heyday back when there was 2 shows like that, like unless you were there, you have no clue on how badass that was.
Man, the cruising at night was impeccable. Oh my gosh. There's only in the 30 plus years I've been doing this, there's only 2 shows in my opinion that have had the best cruising, hands down. That was Mini Nats back in the day in Pigeon Forge, and then Mini Nats today. I kind of call that one show, right? And then Greenville for Showfest. That was the 2 best cruising. That is for sure.
I know one of the years, Charlie at his show was, what club had the most tickets, and we won it that year because we had like so many tickets. We had like 2 guys that went to jail.
Oh my gosh!
Big, just stupid stuff. Like you're really taking me to jail for that? Like I didn't do anything. Like it was just a money grab back then, which is what they're doing now with like the lifted stuff. I think they said they banned all squatted trucks or whatever for the rod run. And I mean, it's just, it's different. It's not what it used to be back in the 90s and 2000s in Pigeon Forge.
Yeah. The only problem is that some of the younger generation, they're a little different than we were. I mean, we were crazy, but nothing like what these kids are doing now. They're like burning buildings down and climbing poles. Yeah. I mean, we were just hanging out, drinking some beer on the street, yelling at people and saying, "Bow!" Now they're like, let's burn the building down. It's like, bro, what are you doing, man?
So you taking that dually there, is that what transpired to say, okay, now I have to go further with it?
So I took the truck there. It was all black. We brought it home. One of my good buddies, Robbie Taylor, said, "Oh, bro, we got to paint it. Let's 2-tone it." So we painted it and 2-toned it, and I took it to Showfest and had a blast with it. I showed it for not even a year painted. Took it to Blood Drag, and that's where I got a negative camera and got my logo. And then I took it to Showfest, a couple of shows. That would have been 2-2.
Okay, so you've been in Camber for a minute then.
For a hot minute, yeah.
Yeah.
Not as long as a lot of guys. A lot of guys have me beat, but I've been in the club for a while for sure. But so we take it there. I had a blast, had a really great time. Got a reckless driving ticket, because I'm watching everybody drag up and down the street, and they're like, "Barcia, pull the dually out, man. You got to drag that thing, And I pull it out, and I do a burnout, drag it down the strip and blew my train horns, back when those were big. And woo, I get pulled over. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm watching trucks all night long, cruising, drag. It's no big deal. The guy gives me a reckless driving ticket, and I'm just like, I don't understand. At Showfest in Greenville, but like before it got crazy. And so anyway, so I had to go to the police department the next day, and he goes, "You got to go to the police department tomorrow and pay the ticket." And they took my driver's license. And I'm like, well, how am I supposed to drive? He goes, "We know who you are." I'm like, "Oh, you know who I am." And he's like, you got to go to the police department tomorrow, get your driver's license back and pay the fine. I'm like, well, the fine's not even on the ticket. How much do I owe you? He goes, you have to go there to find out. I'm not supposed to even have enough money to pay for that. So anyways,
everybody's just a bunch of broke mini truckers.
100%, right? So the next day I get up and I go to the ATM and I pull out $300, right? That was the max the ATM would give me, So I go there and expecting like $150 or whatever. It was like $500. So my good buddy Brian Pearl, it's like, I got some money here. I'm like, well, I'll pay you back like tomorrow or whatever, when we're on our way home. So I go there and it's like all these other dualies are in the parking lot. And I'm like talking to them and we're all like, what the hell, So the cop, apparently the same guy, just started pulling over all the guys with dualies and giving them all tickets. And then I heard one of them was telling me how they said like if they can afford to bring that show truck here and tow with the dually show truck, they can pay this city. I'm just like, wow. Oh my gosh. But whatever, it is what it is.
That's one show I never made it to. I always wanted to, but I never, same way as Slamfest. Never made it to it, but
It was an epic show. I always went to mini nats, for years in my Isuzu, and one year we went to mini nats, my buddy Chuck and I, that actually the last year when my dually was black when we took it there, and we saw all the coverage later from that same year of Showfest. We're like, we're going there. We're not going back to mini nats, and we started going to Showfest instead. Yeah. At that time, mini nats started dying, and then the Showfest just exploded. It was crazy. But we got to figure out how to get you to Slamfest. That's for sure. We got to talk about that.
Well, we'll get to that. So now getting that ticket, is that what pushed you into say, okay, I'm parking the dually and now I've got to
park? No, it wasn't even that. Not even that at all. So we went home and my buddy, he's like, same guy, Robbie Taylor, is like, bro, we got to body drop it. Because it was just bag lane frame at the time. And I'm like, man, we just painted it, I'm like, we haven't even, he goes, oh man, we could do it in like a weekend. I'm like, there's no way we can body drop a dually in a weekend. He's like, oh, we can do it super fast. This is back in the day, you stock floored everything. I mean, traditional body dropped everything.
Cut the floor, drop down, weld it up.
Yeah, right. Like, he's like, dude, it's not a big deal. So I went and rented a car. Okay. And we took the truck apart, dropped the cab. And then he's like, oh, bro, we got to figure out how to put semi wheels on this thing. That's like a new thing. He was like, but nobody's ever body dropped one with the semi wheels. And that's where it went to hell.
That's when everybody was doing 95s, wasn't it?
Yeah. You couldn't, like, this was a 22.5. And, that's where it went to hell. And it was like milling the wheels down, then trying to make them tuck. And then my buddy's like, well, wow, it's apart. Let's chrome this and let's chrome that and let's paint this and let's do this. And dude, 15 years later, the truck was done. Never in a million years was what we built was what it was supposed to be. And my wife got mad at me. She's like, you're renting a car. This is like 3 weeks later. She's like, this is outrageous. When is it going to be done? And I'm like, oh, this is a problem. I went and bought a $500 car as I'm still making payments on my dually and driving this beater around just so I could work on my truck, And,
well, at least you were making regular loan payments. Where I had Kerry Bewley on a couple of weeks ago. He's talking about when he did Project Indy, it was leased. He took it straight to the shop and blew it apart with the lease on it. He's like, whatever.
That's awesome.
He's like, what fine print?
That's great. Oh my God. Well, no, mine was like 3 years, loan on it, and I only had it for like, I don't know, a year and a half.
Now you got to have like an 8-year loan to even afford a day in car payment anymore. So
man, I want to buy a new Duramax, but they're like $100,000. It's like buying a house, right? Yeah, it's crazy. So
now, didn't you take the dually to Jimmy's? I
did. So we'll fast forward. My buddy Robbie and I were building the truck. We finally got the suspension somewhat right, and I ended up taking the truck. We painted the front frame rails, the motor. We decided to repaint the truck all red. So we painted the engine bay in the front of the frame rails red. And then I had gotten a bunch of chrome parts done in the rear of the truck, 4-link bars and all this stuff. And I was like, man, what am I doing, on this? And I started first started welding all the holes shut on the factory frame and smoothing it all out. And then it was like everybody was doing back halves. And I was like, bro, I've been doing all this work and this thing is still a stock frame. And then that's when it really went downhill. So then I took it to Jimmy and I made an appointment with him and he
Or would
did.
that be uphill? Like it went uphill at that point?
Yeah, it's a matter of opinion. My wife would definitely say downhill. But so I took him. Gosh, I'm trying to remember, was the cab even on the frame at the time? No, I
What
took
year
him
was this?
just. Oh gosh, I'm bad about that.
Jimmy hadn't been like,
2004,
he wasn't on his
5.
own then, was he?
He had just went on his own when I took him. So he
Where
had
was it?
scraping.
Was it SNC?
SNC, yeah, scraping,
Yeah.
scraping customs or something like that.
I've been trying
And
to
he
get him
went.
on for 2 years, and Jimmy's like, I don't do
Oh
videos
man.
like that, you know.
Oh, really? That's a bummer. Yeah. So yeah. So I took him just a frame. He did the back half and did amazing work. Right. I was so happy with it. And then I'm like, so I had already, another buddy of mine. We sheet metal the whole inside of the bed. In this other time frame before that, and then I realized it wasn't cool enough. So I took the bed to him once he got the back half done, and then Jimmy sheet metal the whole inside of the bed and bead rolled everything when bead rolling was just a thing.
Yeah.
So we did all that. I'd already shaved a bunch of other stuff on the bed at that point in time. So we put the bed on just the cab to make sure, or just on the frame, just to make sure everything fit good, which it did. The cab wasn't even on. The cab was still at my house. And at the time, I had shaved the firewall and did a bunch of, typical trailer fenders in the front that I did myself.
Okay.
But me and my buddy Robbie were doing the new front end. We went to an '04 front end and had cut up fenders and everything. So then I thought I was like on the home stretch, and I had a buddy of mine paint the whole truck red, and he did a great job. Truck looked great. Took it to Jimmy. I had Jimmy put the cab on the bed because I didn't have like a lift or anything like that. To do that, it'd be a lot easier to do it with that. He put the cab on the frame, the bed on the frame. I sat there and looked at it. I'm like, oh, it looks terrible. He's like, what? I'm like, it's too much red. I'm like, it looks like soup. It looks like you just dumped the whole thing inside soup.
Was the frame already red then?
The frame was already painted. I'd already shown the frame at that point in time, taking it to SEMA and LST, scraping it. And
so I guess let's pause there and kind of step back for that. So when you got the frame to that point, you were probably one of the first, I guess, full out dually chassis that had ever been showed without the body. Because I don't remember anybody before you having something to that extent for a dually.
Well, there was one other one. Right about the same time, Scooby from in-state from Louisiana had his blue frame. It was, his truck was not an OBS though, it was a newer version. And he had shown his frame right about the same time frame, maybe a little bit before mine. I couldn't tell you 100%, but it might have been like right before mine.
Now, you took the frame itself to SEMA, right? What year did you take that? And who was it for?
So Frank from Reds, who had built my wheels, which is the diesel wheels, those are the first real dually wheels I had on the truck.
Yeah.
Was able to get it into the Dub booth. So back in the day, I don't know if they even still do it, but Dub had a big booth that was outside.
It's transitioned to TIS and Drop Stars now.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Same section actually.
It's no longer Dub anymore, but it's Miles is still doing it, and Miles and Ramos, so it's still the TIS booth now. It's where I've been for most of my builds.
Oh, cool. So Frank from Diesel Wheels Reds is really good friends of Miles. They're like super tight. But so he got me an opportunity to bring the chassis out there. So we put my chassis in. He has a Kodiak, and he took a couple there was one or two. He took one of those. No, he took one of those Sebrings that had the body kit on it to look like a Bentley. So he took one finished, one unfinished, but he had a third spot. He's like, hey, you want to take the frame? I'm like, yeah, that's like a lifelong dream, It's kind of like, why are you taking a frame to SEMA? But
was that your first year going to SEMA?
It was the first time.
So you had never been even spectating?
Well, no. I had been, because my first year going to SEMA was 2001. I've been to SEMA every year since 2001, except for 2020 when they canceled it because of COVID, That was the COVID year. So we took I'm really bad about that. I couldn't even tell you the year, honestly. But
you can remember what head unit you had in your high school car.
I know. That's the sad part, isn't it?
What year did you say you took the chassis?
So I took the chassis in 2011.
Okay.
That's actually when it was. So it's been a while. And then it went back to SEMA. I debuted the truck there in 2018. And, I kind of really set myself up to fail, right? I showed that chassis for a couple years. And I'll never forget. Some people are like, man, if this chassis looks like this, I can't imagine what the truck's going to look like. I'm like, oh my God,
Now you
what
got
did
to
I
step
do to
your game up.
myself, Exactly. So that's one of the reasons why when we finally were putting the whole truck together, um, I just, it was too much red on red. Now, a lot of people will say I should have kept it red, but it is what
I
it
think
is.
the contrast is a
Um,
good contrast on it for sure.
I think so too. And I really definitely owe that to my boys over at Twin States. Justin and Eli were like, bro, we can't do red. So I kind of knew I wanted to change it, and I wanted to put like billet hood hinges, which Jimmy could have killed me. We just had put the cab on it and everything. And I'm like, dude, we got to figure out how to do this. He's like, we'll just, buy some and we'll just see what it takes. The truck is just painted, right? I mean, the cab, the bed's on it, the cab's on it, everything is together at this point in time. And he's like, I think these build specialties for a Bel Air will fit. And I went and bought them and bring them to him. And he's looking at him. He's like, man, I don't know how we're going to make this work. And then he's like, well, we could get this guy here. We could 3D print some stuff way before things were being 3D printed, so we could mock something up. And those hinges like held up the truck for like a year. It was a terrible, terrible decision in so many ways, and the best decision in the long run. But so ultimately, he's like, the only way I can make this fit is we got to cut the firewall out. We have to redo it. I'm like, ooh. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. I want cool hinges. I don't care what it takes. And so he pulled it, and I
Yeah.
was there. We just pulled the cab right back off the freaking the frame and everything, rolled everything out, and he goes, but I'm not cutting that firewall. He's like, I'm not doing that. So I'm like, give me a sawzall, give me a grinder with a cutoff wheel. He hands me a sawzall. I got like a third of the way through it. He's like, just give it to me. I'll do it.
Now you're talking about pulling the cab off. Until last year, I thought, oh, it's a frame off build. I thought you took the body off one time and put it back on. Now I know you take it off 30, 11 times and put it back on and back off and back on and trim and cut. Like it
It's
opened
terrible.
my eyes to a lot of stuff that I thought I knew about.
Yeah, I had literally borrowed a rotisserie from a buddy of mine, and in my old house, my old garage, I had my cab on the rotisserie, bed was on a dolly, and the frame was in my garage. I mean, I had a 3-car garage that you could park a car in, which did not make my wife happy. Another thing that she wasn't happy about. But yeah, that people don't realize. I couldn't even tell you how many times that cab came out. 10 to 15 times. I don't know. It was a lot.
So where in this process did the no compromise name come from?
It definitely came later, right? So I wanted to incorporate, negative camber with the initials NC with the name of the
I
truck.
never put those two together until you said that just now, the NC.
Yeah, so like it's kind of like with that truck. Some people know, some people don't. It's kind of like the whole hidden Mickey thing at Disney, where you have a little, hidden Mickeys everywhere. The truck's got little NCs everywhere.
Yeah, you
I've
showed
actually
me one of
stopped.
those, and it's like until you point it out, you don't see it at all.
Well, that was the problem. I was like, man, starting like NC threw up on this truck. That's got to start. I gotta stop taking some of it's got to go away. It's just too much, right? So then it was like more subtle, and I think it's better now, and it's pretty. It just adds detail to the truck, and it also shows the parts are one off. It's nothing that's store bought
Yeah.
parts. But so yeah, I was trying to incorporate something with NC as a name for the truck, and I came up with the whole no compromise thing, and I thought it was very fitting. It's one of those things for me personally. It was a no compromise. I didn't want to compromise the hood hinges and different things throughout the building. I'm just a regular dude with a regular job, and it took me a really long time to build that truck. I know shops can get stuff done and build like these Riddlers in 3 years and stuff, and I realized it took me 15 years, but I'll tell you, I gave up everything to build that truck. Some of these guys that are worth $30 million, yeah, they put $2 million in a car, and it's phenomenal. I appreciate the build,
Yeah.
but they did not go out to dinner on Friday night though because of it, And I was that guy who was like, "No, honey, sorry, I bought bill of parts or I paid for the chrome shop, and we're not going to dinner this week." I mean, we did, but we didn't. Definitely cut some stuff back, and I'll tell you the hardest thing, Brandon, in the whole build process was to not get sidetracked. It was so hard, and people were like, "Hey, bro, you want to buy this truck?" And I had saved the money, for the next thing on the truck. I'm like, man, man, I still regret. A buddy of mine, Dusty, had a red square body, fully done, just needed air conditioning and had smoothies done. I was gonna change the wheels, and he only wanted 15 grand for the truck. today I do backflips for that.
Yep.
I'm sure the trucks were 60 to 80 today, and I was like, nah, man, saving for my paint or saving for something. I don't remember what it was. And I had the money in my, what I always call my truck fund, I had the
Yeah.
money, but I was like, I
I used
knew
to
if
have
I,
one of those. I think I lost it
yeah,
about July last year.
right, you spent it all. You built
When
the
I
truck.
went over budget, I'm like, yeah, that money's gone. I no longer have a truck fund.
Yeah, it's funny. We always thought a budget. Those things go out the window real fast.
Literally, I remember the day we were sitting at Tractor Supply. We went and bought a bunch of bolts because you can go to Tractor Supply and get these grade 8 stuff like by the weight or whatever. And I'm like, I started adding up because I messed up this spreadsheet. I knew where I was at budget wise, and I said, well, we officially crossed my budget, and it's July, and we still ain't half done with it. I'm like, it is what it is. Let's go. Like nothing you can do about it at that point.
Yeah, the thing is, you just can't turn back, right? And that's unfortunately what
Or
happens to
stop.
so many people. Is that they start building something, they don't have any earthly idea what they're getting themselves into. They either lose interest, which is something that definitely
Yep.
happens, or obviously the other thing too is just it's just too much of a financial burden, and it sucks. I'm the first person to say it, but I'll do, like today I do my detailing, right? And I work 50, 60 hours, then come home and work another 30 to 40 hours a week doing detailing, but life is expensive and this truck crap is not cheap.
And
You
that's
know,
where people say, oh, must be nice. They don't see because at that point you're 80, 90 hours a week in work. Like people don't get that.
they don't. That's the thing. But it's okay. I love my regular job. They're amazing people to work for, and I love the product, and I love my customers the most. They become personal friends of mine, and people I call my family. And then I come home and I get to work on some amazing vehicles.
Yeah.
Like I'm working on this OBS right now. Now I just finished an Explorer. I mean, it was nothing exciting, but it's still a cool truck. But if I could just work on classic trucks and hot rods all day long, I'd be happy. That's for
Now,
sure.
now you said so you brought the truck back to SEMA at 18 with it,
Hmm.
done. I remember coming around the corner and you wiping it down there outside the American Force booth at the time.
American Forest. Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, man, this thing is crazy. Like you took internet by storm, and you had the haters like, well, don't have, radiator hoses and this and that. I'm like, it was done enough to get here. Like, where's your truck at? Like but I know
So
you went back after that and finished it and then started
I
taking
did.
the show scene by storm.
So, it was a typical, SEMA build, not
Yep.
finished. I'll never forget that terrible phone call I got from Justin Eli going, hey, bro, I got good news and bad news. The good news, the truck's going great. Humping it. We're killing ourselves. We're both working 40 plus hours a week on it. Bad news is there's no way everything's been done for SEMA. I'm like, oh, and I'm like on the hook for free sponsors and my credit
Yep.
card's on the line. If it's not there, I got to pay 15 grand to BASF for materials. And,
And that's an aspect a lot of people that say, I want sponsorship, don't understand that there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that when you make a commitment to these big, massive, multi-million dollar companies, you have to be there.
have to be.
Yeah.
So they said you have two options. It can run and drive and black out the windows and have no interior, or you can pick it up early, not running and driving, and get the interior done. I chose the interior.
Yep. Driving it
I
seem
think,
anyway, it sits there.
yeah, and Justin and I did not want me to do that. They just want to get done with the truck, which I don't blame them at all,
Yeah.
But you can't you have one debut. You have one opportunity to debut that vehicle. And I didn't want to debut with that interior. And yes, it did not have radiator hoses and it did not have brake lines in the engine
It
bay. Okay.
still was above and beyond what many of the OBS trucks that were there even had a capability of doing.
Yeah, it definitely was exciting. It was stressful. It was nervous, but I felt like the truck community, even the hot rod community, really accepted the truck and really enjoyed it. And but yeah, I mean,
And the
on the way
people that,
back,
that don't know the people that don't know the truck or don't know your story. So this truck, it is built like a high-end hot rod, but it's an OBS truck. The details, the colors, the chrome, the fit and finish, it's built like one of these high-end builds, but it's a newer vehicle. No, an OBS still isn't a new vehicle, but it's not a 1957 Impala or something. Like it's built like a hot rod, but more modern.
And that was kind of the goal. When I was probably 19 to 20 years old, me and my buddy Scott Smith would fly out to Detroit Autorama every year. And we'd go check out the Great Eights and the Riddler. And I
Yeah.
would drool. You know, my Suzu way back in the day, I would show it at World of Wheels Show, a full display, and Nopi, full display and everything, you know. And I really just
We all
enjoyed
had
that
the
world.
full displays.
There you go. Right.
We all had
Exactly.
the
You know
full
it.
displays.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So
We debuted the truck in Vegas. And we
Do what?
took it straight after we debuted it in Vegas. We took it straight back to Twin States.
Yeah.
And Justin and Eli finished the truck. They made it run and drive. And then I went and picked it up. And the first show I actually competed with and really drove the truck was in Detroit for Detroit Autorama.
Wait a minute, your truck drives? I don't think anybody's ever seen it drive. You're lying. It's all, that's fake.
I just push it.
So, but you took the show scene. I mean, you hit it hard. I think you hit probably every show that made a difference to anybody. Like, you weren't hitting like the local cars and coffee. You were hitting the big boy stuff with it for what, 4 years, 5 years?
Oh, yeah. So my biggest thing, you know, I would see friends of mine and people that I knew in the truck community that would build like awesome trucks, right? And they go to 2 shows, you never see them again, you know, and it always would irk me. I'm like, man, I'm putting too much money, too much time. I'm going to take this sucker everywhere. And it's been everywhere. It's ended up now going to SEMA 3 total times, including the chassis. I went to LST 3 times. It's been to, you know, Scraping the Coast. It's been to Battle in Bama, then OBS Nationals. Went to Detroit Autorama, like I mentioned. Eastbound Get Down.
Display and everything. So that probably takes more time setting up and tearing down than actually going to the show.
So any of my buddies that reluctantly go with me when I have the display, you know, like Brian, CJ, Mark, and let's go Chuck, obviously, you know, this goes on. You know, we're usually the first people to get to the show and definitely the last people to leave. You know, it's 8 to 10 hours as an absolute minimum to set that truck up in the display. And then, you know, we're 4 or 5 hours tearing it all down and packing it all up. It's a lot of work.
Now, what made you, after doing all this, hitting all these shows and having the perfect built OBS Dually, what made you go, okay, now I need more?
You know, so again, Justin and Eli, they're like, hey, I want to talk to them about doing some stuff to the truck. I'm like, hey, you know, I want to do a couple of things, nothing crazy. You know, there's just a couple things that I thought we could make better. And they're like, oh, well, let's do this and let's do that. And it really definitely steamrolled. But I truly believe we made the truck better. You know, one of the things I always kind of joked about was I always felt like I had a SEMA dash. You know, we built 2 dashes and they were awful, threw them away, came up with a 3rd dash, and we just had to run with it. I'm not going to tell you that the shop that did it was that excited about it, you know. But it is what it was. It is what it is, you know, and there's little things that I wanted to change and just make better. And Justin and Eli were, oh, we got to put graphics on. I'm like, you're absolutely out of your mind. I'm like, there's no way I'm putting graphics on this truck. They're like, no, we have an idea. We'll just go down the center of the truck, you know.
So it sounds like they are bad influences to you.
They're expensive is what they are. No, you know, they always, you know, came up with really great ideas in the long run, you know, and they're the ones like, man, we should put different wheels on it. You can get your dash done like you wanted to, get your new console, you know, do your things that you wanted to change. Now is your chance. And really, honestly, Brandon, at that point, I'm not going to say I did it all or done it all, you know, but I really accomplished an extreme amount that I was really happy with, you know.
Yeah.
And I just got back from Slamboree out in Oklahoma, and they're like, you know, now's a chance that we can tear the truck apart. And then, what do you think about taking it back to SEMA? I was like, oh shit, driving back out there again. Ooh, you know, for me, it's 2,300 miles each way. That's a commitment, you know. And,
you're
so
probably, even though you're further south, you're probably about the same time frame. I think it's like 32 or 34 hours on paper for me.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's far. You know,
yeah.
Anywhere from the East Coast, it's just far. So I'll tell you, you know, but it was the best thing we did. You know, Justin and Eli killed it, and then
what year did you take it out there? 20.
So it went out 23. Yep. Yeah, and took it from there to Chris Pate. You know, Chris Pate and his team built a new dash and 3D printed the AC vent, had Spark build the one-off steering wheel, and we did the new console and all the new Sony Mobile ES audio in it, and did the push to start in there, and just the new gauge cluster. Also changed out, Dustin Eli changed out the fuel injection. We went to Holly. I was having like some starting issues, and they were like, "Man, they got to take out that junk." I'm like, "Even my chrome and upper intake, I spent a ton of money on." He's like, "It's junk." So we went to the Holly, and it was what needed to be done, And then we had Cisco build a one-off custom upper intake for it, cover, and and got the new wheels. Phoenix Forge built the new wheels, and I had Redline. I had to really twist their arm to do those tires. They're the only set of red Diamondbacks they ever did where the tire strap is on both sides of the tire, which they did not want to do that. And
But
it was the first
most vehicles, you don't see the inside of the tire, but on yours in a display, you do.
100%. From the engine bay, you can see it.
Yeah.
And through the inside of the bed, you can see it. And like all 6 tires have the stripe on all 6 tires. They even told me, this is the most expensive set of tires we've ever spent. I'm like, we've ever made. I'm like, yeah, don't remind me. It's terrible.
So you've slowed down a little bit since the last rendition of the truck. You're still hitting shows, but I don't think you're hitting as many as you did after when it first debuted, right?
Yeah, I didn't go as hard last year. I went hard at first. I went back to OBI with it. I went back to LST with it. I did Slamboree again. Yeah, the OBS Nationals twice, but not like some of the shows. Like I'm not going to go back to Detroit with it, right? Now I do want to take it to Chicago Autorama at some point. I want to compete for their Select 6. That's one of the few things that I have left that I still, as a show, I still want to do. I am going to take it to Atlantic City Truck Meet this year, so that's a totally different deal. It's just going up and down, between, like, say, Texas and Florida. The truck has been shown so much. I'm not going to say it's played out, but it's played out. Everybody's seen it, and so taking it to Atlantic City, it's a huge show.
Mark and them do a good job.
Yeah, he's only 5,000 trucks. I'm like, holy crap, and truck's never been to the Northeast before, so that's something totally different. And it just seems like going to be a great time. So I am taking it there. I feel like I want to get somewhere else, but I'm not really sure where else to take it. It'll go to Slam Fest, but just on display.
Now, I know everybody says, you never say never, but are you ever going to change anything else on it, or are you happy with this version and this is it?
So there is definitely stuff I want to do to it. One of the reasons I haven't taken it to Chicago is because I want to do some more billet one-off parts, like chassis component stuff.
Yeah.
But man, the prices I'm getting, and then chrome in it, I'm like, man, it's like building a whole nother truck again. I'm like, man, do I really want to invest in? Who am I trying to beat other than myself at a certain point? And when does it stop? This last year, honestly, I didn't do much to the truck because I've been saving for my daughter's wedding. She had, like I had mentioned before, that's just a couple weeks, so I had to pay for that. That kind of really put a big dent in any kind of truck fund money. But I've kind of got on this kick to just get like a little OBS like behind me, just something basic, and maybe have some fun with that. So I don't know.
Now, would you ever let the dually go, or is this something you plan to keep forever?
I was offered quite a few times money for the truck when I first debuted it, and then also when I redid it again. But every time they want to buy it, like right when I debut it in the original time, there was no way it was for sale. I don't care how much you offered me. Unless it was like a sheik from some other country or world with a white suit and a briefcase. That truck wasn't going nowhere. I just put too much heart and soul and passion into it. So maybe it's a different case now, but I'm not going to give the truck away. It's worth more to me than it is to most people.
Yeah.
So you never know. The right person came up that wanted it more than me. I've been able to accomplish an incredible amount with it. People that know me know I want to build a square body, but I want something with an LS and roaster shop chassis and, something like really nice and high caliber. Probably not to what I have right now, just something, not a driver, but something that just a nice truck.
Cruiser for shows.
Yeah, exactly. Like I would still probably maybe cruise it maybe around town at the show or something like that, but that would be about it. Do like an LS supercharged or something like that. It's still, 100K up, to build something. So
that's just in parts. I've learned that. That's just parts. That's no labor, no pain. That's just stacking parts so you can start on
it. Right. Trust me, I know. Especially when I'm thinking roaster shop chassis to start with.
Yeah. So me and Mike also have a a little stuff in common. I detail when I'm not, because I do photography and detailing, and you do detail as well. But you seem to do a lot of, higher end show stuff, where I'm more of the in and out, turn and burn, easy coat, that kind of customers. I do still have the stuff that comes in for paint correction to bring it out, but you have a lot of the show people like, all right, cool. I need my vehicle to look perfect. So how did you get into doing detailing? Is it something you've always done on the side?
So, I've been detailing show vehicles for 30 years, from starting with my old Isuzu back in the day and polishing
Yeah.
chrome, to 15 years ago helping a buddy with his truck and polishing it out. And,
That's how
it's
I
just always,
started.
yeah, it's always been like helping friends, and I'll bring it over. I've got this new polisher, and let's put it to work. And it was never supposed to be a thing, and now it's become a thing. And but I really enjoy it. I've been flown off to Texas a few times to do stuff. I've got a 55 Merc coming to me. Guy just brought the car in from New Zealand, and it's fully chopped and channeled. The thing is awesome.
Now, do you
Black, of
wet
course.
sand and everything?
If I have to. Majority of the time, when I get stuff, when I do any kind of wet sanding, I'm just trying to fix scratches that are in it.
Not like a
But
full out cut and buff.
no, because when I get them, they've already been cut and buffed.
Yeah.
That's already been done. Um, like I did a black truck recently that had a bunch of scratches on it, and all those scratches I did wet sand and buffed out. But not a full like fender, like it was just painted and have to use a rotary. I'm just using like a DA on stuff.
That's like me.
But
I don't full sanding and rotary, but like I had a guy come in the other day that somebody pulled a dealership sticker off, and I swear they used a butter knife to get it off the tailgate. It was terrible. But I sanded and then buffed and then sanded again and buffed. With it being factory paint, I wasn't getting too aggressive. I'll spot sand like that, but for the most part, I'm the same way. They're clean enough to just hit with the DA, 2-3 stage if I have to, and then you're done with it.
yeah, I just don't want to get into it, right? I had a guy a while ago, probably a year ago, want me to do a Tacoma, and I went and looked at it, and the truck had been painted, but it's never been wet sanded or buffed. And let me tell you, it needed to be blocked, and I gave him the, like,
I don't want to do it,
I
price.
don't want to do this price. Yeah. And he never did do it. And honestly, I preferred it.
That sucks.
People just don't understand. It's just, there's certain things that you really enjoy doing. And that part of it, I just don't, I did my Isuzu back in the day, where I'm wet sanding the whole entire truck and then polishing. It's one of the first wet sand and buff sites I've ever done. That's a whole different deal, and it's so much work. Today, I'd rather come in where the painters stop. I work with Tom Argue, who does phenomenal paint work, and he has a phenomenal hot rod shop here locally. And he's brought me a few vehicles, and they wet sand and buffed them and cut them up. But like where his painter and his detail, they're done. They're mentally like, I'm done with that thing. Then you bring it to me, and then I finish it out. Then I'll do a 3-stage, polish, paint correction, polish, and remove anything that's left over. But I'm also doing all the door jams. I'm doing engine bays, bottom of hoods, trunk jams, bottom sides of trunk lids, stuff that nobody wants to do or take the time or has the finesse, and I've got all the different size polishers from a 6-inch, 5-inch, 3-inch, 2 and 1-inch, so I can get into little crevices. And it's just, a lot of people don't have patience to do that.
Yeah.
And I find the shops around me, they just want to do kind of what you said, just get a car in and out, get it done in 2 days and move on. I don't do a car unless it's a week, and there's stuff that's 2 or 3 weeks,
Most of mine are more, like I always say, I try to stay away from the mom minivans. I've had a couple of them, but like I have a lot of BMWs and Porsches and Audis that people, they'll buy new or only a couple years old, and they just want it, quick, get it dialed in, get it coated, and, then take off with it. So I have the ones that want to leave stuff, and, it's a full process, but a lot of mine are in and out. Now, you're talking about like painters doing the cut and buff and everything. Like with my Blazer, it was cut and buffed while it was still apart. Then it was assembled, and we finger fucked it trying to put it back together and, leaning in it, putting stuff together. Like it still looked good. Like it was right. But like when it rolled across, I see the video of it rolling across at the Barrett Jackson Cup. I see every swirl in it. I'm like, oh, this is killing me. Most people's like, what are you talking about? What swirls? I'm like, I see those. So when it come home, I dialed it in, got it dialed in right, even though it's patina, like still it already been cut and buffed, but I did that last little bit of step. Would it have been
Well,
easier with the moldings and door handles off of it? Absolutely.
hey, you have to tape all that stuff up, and you got to be careful around those edges and stuff.
But yeah, that the stuff that I see you bring through, like the black truck that Jake had built with the red wheels on it and stuff, and it's
Yep.
like I wish I had some people bringing me stuff like that from that far away.
Yeah, he's 10 hours away, and he hired a transporter to bring it and drop it off. And he's like, Mike, I want you to do everything you possibly can do to it, just make it happen. And I was blessed with time, right? That's half the battle. A lot of people don't want to leave them with me. I'm like, I can't do that much work in that amount of time. I love doing the work and I enjoy it, but luckily because it's not my full-time gig, I can like zone out on a panel, and I don't have to move on until the panel's right. And he was so happy with that truck. He's like, hey, listen, oh, can you help me on something? I'm like thinking he doesn't want to pay me or something. He's like, can I bring you another truck? I'm like, ooh, my schedule. I'm like, yeah. He goes, I have to bring a trailer down there anyway, and I'm paying the guy to bring it. Can I just drop one off and then pick that one up? I'm like, okay. He was just so happy with the work, and he wants me to do like 4 more for him.
Now,
But yeah, I've been blessed with that.
Now you've got a pretty badass shop / garage there. How big of a shop do you have?
So it's considered a 7-car garage. It is 50 wide and 40 deep. It's like roughly 1,900 square feet, something like that.
Goals for sure. I'm still in a 19 by 22. I don't even say it's a 2-car garage. It's a 2 Civic with no toolbox garage is what it is. I mean, I know my limits. I know what fits, what won't fit. I would love to have room. So I guess you leave your dually in there when you're detailing. You probably just throw a cover on it and like up in the corner.
Yeah, so the dually kind of sits where it sits.
The Blazer goes outside. It is what it is. But one day I'll have something that big. But I love seeing you working on stuff in there. I'm like, that's a killer garage for sure.
Thank you. I'm blessed. I've got air conditioning out here. I've got Sonos. I've got 2 subs and 4 in-ceiling speakers. And
shops in Florida have air conditioning. For some reason, Jimmy said they don't have them down there in Florida.
Yeah. And you're crazy not to. How can I be sweating all over the cars? Because I remember
I stopped by Jimmy's and he goes, oh yeah, just open the doors and the breeze comes through and it's fine. And I'm like, no
way.
Well, hell, my Blazer is built in Vegas. It was 114 when I was there in July, and it was 77 degrees in the shop.
Oh, it's not. Yeah, you have to have AC as far as I'm concerned. Like right now, I'm at 73 degrees. It doesn't suck. That's for sure.
Yeah, I put a mini split in mine. There's a lot of cars I can't shut the door and still work. Just the lengthwise, I can't get around it. But even if the door is open and it's still warmer, you can still walk to that side of the garage and stand underneath that mini split for a minute, and get that little bit of breeze to.
Yeah. And that's all I have is a mini split. They work great. There's nothing wrong with it. It keeps it nice and cool.
So, we talking about Florida here and, the heat and everything, you keep trying to get me to come down to Florida for a show, which luckily it's not in the heat of Florida summer. It's later in the year. I guess you're involved again with Slam Fest?
Yeah. So, a lot of people don't know this. I'm one of the 4 people that started Slam Fest back, 92.
Who was the original 4? I know it was TC.
No, TC was later. I actually got TC in the club. Yeah. I met TC at a car show at Lakeland's drag strip, and I got him into the club. And then eventually when I stepped away is when he stepped up.
Okay.
But it was a guy named Donnie Novak, Alex Piovano, myself, and honestly, I don't remember their dude's name, but there was a whole club. But it was mainly 4 people that did the majority of the work, until the weekend of the show. And people don't realize the weekend of the show, it's all hands on deck. Everybody's working, but people don't realize it's a year. You work on that show all year long. I tell people
when I did my show, it took 14 months to put a show on because you have to start planning for the next year 2 months before that show even happens.
Yeah, 100%. It's so accurate. So
I did after 6 years, and I said I'm done.
I don't blame you, and that's basically what happened to me. After roughly 10 years, 8 to 10 years, something like that, I got married. We had my daughter and this and that, and I was like, maybe it wasn't even 6 or 8 years probably when I think about it. Life had happened, and my wife was like, this is just consuming too much of your time, and you've got other responsibilities. And so I stepped away from the club, I stepped away from the show, and TC jumped in full force, And he did it for the last 25 years, did a fantastic job and had a great club and great people around him. And,
I know
you
him
know,
and him and Mike Murray used to come up to my show when I do my show, and I'm like,
yeah,
shit, I've got TC from Slam Fest up here at my show. I'm
yeah,
like, that's cool. Like I felt like
yeah,
I'd achieved something at that point, you know.
yeah, that's awesome. Yep, such a great guy. Those of you that know, new TC died a year ago, April. It's really coming up to his the anniversary of his passing. I
Yeah.
had saw him in like February at like a little local cruise in, and I actually have a picture of him and I and a couple of the OG Mini Madness guys. TC was my buddy. I talked to him all the time, even though we weren't in the same truck club anymore. We had always still stayed close. He was at my wedding in '97. We go really, really far back, and so this past year, losing him was tough for me and just so many people, and it really impacted that club, right? So Slam Fest happens this year. There were a lot of rumors, saying this is the last year it's going to happen because of TC and him passing. And so I'm at the show this year to answer your question, and I'm talking to Jonathan Hawkins and a few other guys, Paul Rogers and Jim Giesiger and a few other people. And they asked me in a group setting, what do you think about the show? And I'm like, you don't want my answer. And they're like, no, seriously, we want your answer. I'm like, you don't want my answer. They're like, no, really. And I'm like, well, you need to do all of these things, and one of them, I think it was Paul, goes, well, help us. And I'm like, oh man, immediately it was like palm fist to my forehead. What did I get myself into? Me, my big mouth. I should have, oh, it's fantastic, guys, But so they asked me to help, and I'm doing it for TC. He told me a million times he felt like if he stepped away from the club that the show wouldn't happen anymore. And I know how much passion he had for it, how much passion I've had. I'm one of the two people that have been to every single Slam Fest. It has always had a special place in my heart. I've always pushed, friends and club members to go to the show. And so when I was asked, I don't know how to say no, right? And I was first basically asked to give us some advice, put us in the right direction. Who should we talk to? What should we be doing? And then it kind of steamrolled from there to where I'm really trying to help these guys. And recently I was hanging out with Paul in Detroit. He's like, hey, I got some bad news for you. I'm like, well, what's up? He goes, you're stuck now, right? I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, this ain't like a one and done. You're not just helping us this year. I'm like, oh, crap, But it's not like I don't have enough on my plate, But it's fine. Look, they're great guys. It's a great show. And, one of the things I really think that that they need to do is diversify the show. There's a lot of changes that we're making this year to make it a much better show. It's going to change, right?
This year the 30th, or was last year the 30th?
This year's the 35th.
Oh wow. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
I've slept some, I guess.
Yeah, you slipped the last 5 years, but that's okay. So the 30th we had 2,300 vehicles at that show. It was awesome. I was there, and it was a great turnout. Like they had to turn people away. It was really big. But then, unfortunately, this last year with losing TC, it lost some of that momentum it had, and it wasn't as big of a show. So personally, here in Tampa, where the show is at the Florida State Fairgrounds in October, in the past, there was NSRA had an event at the same fairgrounds like 2 weekends to 3 weekends, 30 days, right around there, apart between Slam Fest and NSRA. So unfortunately, NSRA pulled out of Tampa. So what I want to try to do is try to get some of the guys that were going to NSRA to start coming to Slam Fest.
That's why they moved to like the Johnson City area, wasn't it?
Yeah, honestly, they got rid of a couple shows. They just got rid of it.
Oh, did they? I know they got one in like the Johnson City, like the
they do.
Eastern Tennessee area this year.
So I actually even talked to them in Detroit. Actually, and they talked about maybe doing one maybe up in the Panhandle at some point, like Destin area or something like that, which was pretty wild. But yeah, so they pulled out of Tampa. My point is that I thought we could, diversify the show a bit and bring in a lot of the hot rodders. I think that we need to diversify the show a bit with some of the lifted trucks and embrace that community. We're embracing the lowrider scene we're doing reds and diesel wheels. My boy Frank is coming in, and he's going to do like a hop off. We're doing a burnout contest this year, which they haven't done in a long time. We've got Georgia coming. She's going to be doing like some autograph signing. We got some other things that I don't want to talk about because they're not done deal yet, but we've got a lot of things in the works to make it a really great, exciting show again. And I've been working really hard on getting a lot of my friends and people that I have relationships with. I've been squeezing, them and putting pressure on them. And I'm getting some registered trucks that have never come to Florida. A lot of stuff from Texas. And I'm super excited about the change and what's going on, and just to help make it a better show. Florida needs more shows. Our truck scene needs more shows, but unfortunately, in the world that we live in, we need to diversify those a bit.
What's funny is like everybody goes to Florida to shows, but we always joke that you can't get people from Florida to go out of Florida to go to a show. Most people in Florida won't cross that state line.
We always kind of feel it's the other way around, because I can tell you personally, I go everywhere. And
you're one of the few, but then again, a lot of people, if they're South Florida, it takes a whole day just to get out of the state.
Yes. Well, people don't realize that too, right? So I live in Tampa, right? So Tampa to the Florida border in Alabama, like on I-10, it's 7 hours for me to get to Alabama, and I haven't even left the state yet. Now, if you go 4 hours south of me, now it's even that much further.
Yeah.
And if you really want to go from Key West, to, what is it, like? It's like 16 hours going from Key West to Mobile, Alabama.
I made the trip to Blood Drag in West Palm a few times, and that was a drive from North Carolina.
Yeah, for sure. That's 4 hours south of us.
Yeah.
I went to Blood Drag always. Blood Drag was a great show. Yeah, Eddie and those guys did a great job on that show for a long time.
So when's Slamfest this year?
So this year it's October 10th and 11th, which is the Saturday and Sunday, right? Okay. They do a great job on not trying to drag it out. A lot of these shows these days, you got to be there for so many days ahead of time, and afterwards it's just like, man, you have to take a week vacation.
And a lot of the Hot Rod shows are now Friday, Saturday for some reason.
Yeah. And
you have to be there Thursday.
And it's more time off, right? So this is, if you're going to go inside, you got to be there on Friday. If you want to try to mark off a spot, you're there Friday. But it's not a truck show on Friday or a car show on Friday. It is Fridays setup only, and the show is Saturday and Sunday.
Now, people needing info on the show, where can they find all the info on the show at?
So obviously, we've got great social media. Jonathan Hawkins handles all that. He does a great job.
Yeah.
You can look up Slamfest on social media. There's also a website, slamfestshow.com. That's where you can register, as well as buy vendor booths. Unfortunately, at this point in time, we've already sold out the indoors. The indoors were sold out within the first week. And I'll tell you that we had to turn it off because we had more registrations than we had space. So, which is a great problem to have.
Yeah.
But we're going to be going through all the pictures that they had to upload, and we're only going to accept the best of the best. We want indoors to be something special. We want it to be, you walk in there like, holy crap, I just walked into Detroit Autorama. I didn't walk into a truck show where people pay a little bit more because they want to park in air conditioning.
Yeah.
We really want to turn that into premium vehicles, not just premium parking.
So what's in store for Mike Barcia moving forward, other than doing being involved with Slamfest? What's in the future for you?
So I got to get through my daughter's wedding in a couple of weeks. And that'll be a huge burden off my back financially.
But do you like her fiance though? Like, is he a good dude?
I do. Yeah, he's awesome. Look, I couldn't get any luckier, right? So
in the cars.
That's the only downfall.
Oh, now you're gonna have to train him.
That's my goal. Absolutely. So they're high school sweethearts. They've been dating for over 7 years.
Nice.
He's in the military. He's also a corrections officer. My daughter is an RA. So they both have their careers in place. I always joke with them. I'm like, well, you got to go to college, before you get any great idea. They went to college and they both got their degrees. I'm like, well, you got to get your big boy jobs. They both did it. And I'm like, man, what else do I tell my daughter to not get married, right? I took, his name is Kevin Spainhauer. I took him to a Lightning game one night. We took him to watch some hockey. And on the way back, I'll never forget it. He asked me for my daughter's hand in marriage. I thought that was really awesome. And of course, I said, yeah.
People that do that anymore. They don't ask. They just do it.
He comes from an amazing family. His parents are still married, like my wife and I. My wife and I, this is our 29th year of being married. And
Nice.
His parents are like the same type of stretch. And, we hope that both families did a great upbringing, and the kids both have their head on their shoulders. So we're super proud of both of them. So I'm happy to give her
not a car guy. Can he at least change a tire? That's what I tell my daughter. She has to find somebody who can at least change a tire.
I think so. Recently I tried to do a changing tire. I was working on a Ram, and I had to pull the wheels off of it to ceramic coat them. And I told my daughter, I'm like, come out here. I'm going to teach you how to jack up a truck, and change wheels. The kid, she's like, I got AAA, Dad, and I got you. You're not gonna teach me nothing. I'm like, man, these kids,
I've tried to do that. My daughter, she'll sit there and she's like, I got it, Dad. Don't worry about it. I'm just like, put your phone down and pay attention for a minute.
Right? YouTube will teach me how to do it when I need to do it.
So where do people find you to see more info on what you're doing, detail wise, dually wise, or whatever?
So I'm on Facebook just under my first name and last name, Mike Barcia. My last name is spelled Barcia. Looks like Barcia. I always kind of joke about that. The people that don't know me call me Barcia. The people that know me call me Barcia. And the people that really know me revert back to Barcia again. Just give me a hard time. And obviously, I'm also on Instagram at NC Mike Barcia. And then I also have a detailing page on Instagram under No Compromise with a Z. And so, yeah, I'm going to do some shows this year. I'm also one of the panel judges for the Grand National Truck Show out in California. They bring me out, and I did it last year. Was the first time they had me judge that show, and they brought me out, and I really enjoyed it. And they felt that I did a great job. I judged with two of the Slonaker and Amber judges. There was 5 total judges, so it was the 2 of them, myself, and then a custom automotive designer. He designs cars for like GM and Ford and things like that. And then another gentleman, a big truck guy. So I really enjoyed it. And after the fact, a couple of months ago, they asked me to come back and do it again. And I really had fun. So I felt like I must have done something right. And it was funny. The promoter of the show says, the 2 Slonaker guys really liked you. They said that you brought a lot of valid input, and they wanted to pick a couple of things, but you told them why that doesn't win and something else wins over it. And like one of them even challenged you and you went out and showed it to them. And I'm like, well, I mean, I judged the cars, want me to, or trucks, you want me to judge a truck? I'm going to judge it. I'm going to look at everything for everything, just like I judge my own truck, and that's the thing. I judge my own truck before I go to every show with a flashlight and I look at every crevice, and I judge with a flashlight. And some people didn't like that, but it is what it is. That shows you everything, so I'm going back out to California for that in September. And of course, I'm gonna I'll be a spectator at Battle in Bama again. I can't miss that show. It's one of my favorite shows. And taking the truck to Atlantic City Truck Meet this year. So got some cool stuff I'm still doing. I just don't know what new with the dually I'm doing. I might just build an OBS, or I'm actually thinking I'll even build another garage. I know I have an amazing garage, but I'm still thinking no matter how much space you have, you still want more.
Just build another dually to tow that dually is all you need to do.
Right, exactly. The crazy part is I had to buy a tow vehicle for the tow vehicle, which is long story too. But that dually was never supposed to turn into a show truck. It was just supposed to tow my dually, my Suzu.
Well, you said you bought it when your wife was pregnant with your daughter. So does that mean they're going to drive it when they leave the wedding?
So I've got a good buddy of mine, Jason McCarty. He always joked with me when I was building this truck. We worked together in retail for a long time, and then we worked together now at Dow. And he'd always like, oh, your daughter's going to drive that thing to prom. You're finally going to finish it. I'm like, dude, it's not going to take me that long. Literally, my younger one, it was like her senior year when I freaking finally, or maybe whatever, prom or whatever. I'm like, he's like, I told you so. I'm like, man, you did. You 100% you did. He also says she's going to put the first scratch on it, and that has not happened yet.
Well, she still has time. The year.
She does. The truck still sits there. There's still time. Yeah, but unfortunately, both my daughters are 100% not interested in trucks or custom cars at all. My younger one's more into a car. I was at SEMA in 2023, and she FaceTimes me. He's like, look, I got a new car. I'm like, you got a new car? What are you talking about? Look, yeah, you bought me a brand new car. It's a Mazda 30 MX or some crap like that. But it's gray with a red interior, Dad. You're gonna love it. I'm like, oh my God, how much does that cost me? but they're just not really into stuff like we are. I don't know if it's just a generation.
I think it is.
Now they both had bass in their first car, so they had audio in their first car, but both my daughters drive newer cars now. Neither of them, they're both stock radios.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a bummer.
Well, man, I appreciate you coming on. I know, been trying to get you on. Everybody's so busy with their schedule and everything, but it's good to kind of hear the story on how the truck came about and your career in the industry and everything. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We'll definitely keep an eye out for the dually at shows, and I'm sure we'll run into you soon.
Yeah, definitely come by and say hi and say what's up. It's great talking to you. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thank you.